In a time of turmoil, the New York LGBT community strives for fashion and fame. We discuss this and more on today's episode. It's as best as I'm getting. Welcome back to another episode of Around the Weird, around the Lucas, from my friends. Around the Strike the Sun, something like that. A booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I found in my travels. And on a month-to-month basis, I talk also about movies with my friend Lucas from Lucas MF. How are you doing today, Lucas?
I'm doing swell. I watched this movie just a short time ago, and it is beautiful.
Yeah, I saw it 2 weeks ago, I believe, and it was pretty amazing. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it, and it. I already know that it's probably once we make our list for next year, unless something grander comes along, which you never know, it might
Yeah,
happen. But I think this is already shooting
this is a top contender for
top
sure.
contender. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you felt this way in a very different sense, mind you, because the movies were going for totally different things. But I got this. Obviously, there's the LGBT aspect of it that is similar, but I got the same feeling while watching it as I did Pink Flamingos. I don't know if you did, in the sense that like while watching it, like watching, because this is a documentary that is a trash film, um, but because it does follow some on the characters on the fringe, but this movie follows real life people on the fringe of society who are also LGBT. But they felt free. I mean, they felt trapped in a sense in this movie because of their social status, also because of their sexual orientation or gender identity or what have you. But they, as I said to you privately, like they lived life, like they seemed like we have found a community and we are free. And I felt like I had the same feeling as watching Pink Flamingos from that.
I did that. That wasn't called to mind for me, but there is a scene in Pink Flamingos where they're sort of partying at the trailer park
Hmm.
while the other people are scheming, and that's this movie is that entire scene of partying, celebrating, living
Yes.
freely rather than confining yourself to the norms of the patriarchal cishet society that doesn't really like you.
Yeah. And for that, it is just a phenomenal, beautiful, silly, wonderful, tragic movie.
Yeah, this was made in 1990, although released in 1990, but produced over like the late 80s, because it was done year over year. Directed by Jennie Livingston, who's a bit of an artist. And this is one of the things that she's done. She's done other documentaries. It stars like a huge cast of people, mainly Dory and Corey, who's sort of the Greek muse of the story.
Yes.
Pepper LaBeija, Angie Extravaganza, Venus Extravaganza, a bunch of people.
Mm.
So it's hard to say they're a cast. They're just people who were interviewed who shared their story
Yeah.
for
Something
the
ninja or something.
Willie
The
Ninja's amazing. I love Willie Ninja.
Yeah. Yeah, Willie Ninja. And then Octavia Saint Laurent. I think these are like the main characters, if there are main characters. And then those two kids who are out at 2:30 in the morning. I don't know they have names, but I don't know if they say their names, but I really enjoyed those kids.
Yeah,
Anyway,
they were interesting. But
anyway.
yeah, so this is a documentary, quite different than any movie we've really talked about on this channel before.
Mm,
It is a bit of a challenge to sort of talk about plot because there's no real plot, but there are things that happen that are worth discussing.
Definitely.
I think so. We can just go through that and talk about those elements. But I think it starts with an interesting note in that a black man, a black gay man, is talking, and I think someone told him that it's difficult to do it, to be black and gay. You have to be strong, which is showing those
Yeah,
intersectionality.
he said something about his father told him that everyone's got three strikes or something like that, and you've already got two as a black man. First of all, you're black, and then you're a man, and if you're going to be black and gay, you got to be strong. Meanwhile, on screen, you see some trans people, or maybe some drag queens. I can't remember. I think they were trans people at this time, uh, living life, walking around together, smiling, if I recall. It's kind of hard to keep track of all the, like, which scene is what, because sometimes there are voiceovers and you just see images and it cuts to something totally different. But I think they were smiling at that point and walking and turning around, whatever. I would say the thing that was a strong recurring theme, that is important, definitely the aspect of having to be mentally strong for this world that is going to reject you and yeah, try to make you uncomfortable and feel like you don't belong, is the dreams that all these people have, the hopes and dreams that all these people have, and how many of them wish to. Well, a lot of them want to be rich, but a lot of them also are like they accept that if they can't be rich, they want to be comfortable, and to be able to share. Especially Dorian Corey, I believe, said like he wouldn't be comfortable being a millionaire because he would want to spread the wealth to the children, so to speak, and there's a million things to actually get into because that's a key word in this movie. Children. There's this family. There's this found family in this community. Let's try to. Maybe we should tackle one thing at a time instead of scattershotting.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's so many. Like it's all densely tied together that you can't easily pull one thing off and go to the other. Like all these layers they have a root from the same experience for all these people. So where would you like to start?
Well, we could talk about like what attracts them to ball culture. What the balls and like what those kind of symbolize first. And it's important to note, they talk about fame and money. Many of them are kind of homeless already,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Either living on the streets, pulling scams, as they say, or just barely eking
Hustling.
by. Unless you're already established, and even if you're already established, like we saw, like Venus Extravaganza still having to do some shady things on the side, engage in prostitution, to make ends meet, and all of this is kind of present in the 80s. I think George Bush was president by this point, but they're coming off the Reagan 80s where everything was like,
This, yeah, this is filmed during the Reagan era, but it came out when Bush was president.
yeah, so like it's like greed is good, money is the ultimate thing that matters, and sacrifice everything to get that money, and a good life is affordable to you.
Mm.
as long as you hustle, which often
Yeah,
wasn't really true of the Reagan era. But these
sure.
people see that, they see all that excess and fame and whatnot, and that like anyone else, they want that, and
Hmm.
they're the only way that they can really do it is by trying to shoot for what Vogue or the other like covers do, and that's try to be fancy and extravagant because they can't make it through work because work there's discrimination for gay,
Mm.
lesbian, and transgender people there.
Right. Well, one thing that I forget which person said it, but another very important aspect to the ball culture is that this is a complete rejection of the white heteronormative sort of, or at least the heteronormative experiences of the common man, because one of the people talks about how like some people might want to go to a sporting event like basketball or something like that, and or watch that on TV and they'll get really excited, but this is their way to get excited and get famous and popular because they can't really have that in their own lives. But this is a way where they can have a community. Everybody's there, and it blossomed because I think Dorian Corey had been one of the mothers of this ball culture for 20 years because Dorian Corey had won many of the trophies that are awarded at these shows, and yeah, just became sort of a leader, and also grew older. Because a lot of the people actually that you see are much younger than Dorian Corey,
Hmm.
especially those teenagers who are hanging out at 2:30 in the morning. One of them with no parents, the other one probably for very good reason, avoiding being at home with their mom. But yeah, this is their place to express themselves freely and have something that they can have in common. And early on, Dorian Corey says that the ball culture was all about drag queens who had like showgirl uniforms, right? Like all the works that come with that, with the makeup, the headdress, the tail, whatever. I forget everything that he says, but then it evolved through the '70s as those people got older. And new younger people wanted to come in and express themselves, and it grew into this long, kind of tedious thing that goes well into the night that Dorian Corey can no longer stay up for,
Right,
which
yeah.
I love.
They start introducing all of these categories like school and like
Executive,
military.
that's a very important one. Yeah, military executive was an important one related to that '80s culture of yuppies and greed and materialism. But go on.
Yeah, they say Dorian's like I don't know why they have all these categories, but
Yeah.
they do talk about like realness, like
Mm,
the quality of being like real and expressing these sort of like categories.
mm,
But also, as they say, like many of these categories, like executive, are cut off to these people. So
yeah.
it's sort of like playing pretend and like trying to assume a life that is cut off from you at that point.
Mm.
Being like, well, if I can't be it in the real world, I can be it in these balls.
And people will accept me as that and say, "Oh yeah, you'd make a good executive" or something like that. They make a very clear point about that, because they have like a scoring system, just like it's the Olympics, which I think is just like I don't know. I was watching this and thinking, this is so cool.
Yeah, I thought well, this is very lively. These people are living, they're exemplifying a subculture that is rich and is providing them with value.
Mm,
No one is trying to tell them how to live. And unfortunately, because this became mainstream, which, we can talk about some other time, like then the mainstream in the modern day is like, hey, you can't be doing that, you're poisoning the mind of children. Another satanic panic. I don't know, they didn't really touch upon satanic panics in the movies. I don't
Yeah.
really know what the mainstream was saying about like children and ball culture.
Well, there is a dark cloud over hanging over this whole movie, given that it is about LGBT culture in the 80s. And we get a hint of it near the end with Venus, who talks about being afraid of AIDS and some shady customers who found out that she had a penis and threatened to kill her over that, because they were also afraid of AIDS because it was something that there was not a lot of understanding medically, socially, so on and so forth. So yeah, they don't really get into that, and I think that makes it better. There is some darkness in this movie for sure, especially with Venus's story. But and well, all of them, because they're all like running away from homophobic, transphobic parents, and basically in poverty or just very poor. But there is joy there too. So I think not focusing it on their lives and their sort of shared experience here, rather than like opening it up to the whole of gay culture and the feedback to that makes it better as a viewing experience. It really narrows it down, I guess.
Yeah, you really do see the forces that are at work to try to
Yeah.
harm them. Because even like AIDS is a disease, but you can trace that back to like how the Reagan administration addressed it, and that they didn't. They chose to ignore it for as long as possible, which
Yeah.
allowed it to become sort of an epidemic in the United States. And that like that it's the reason why so many people who are in this end up dying within 10 to 15 years,
Yeah.
and combine that with the treatment from people who want to to cheat on their spouses most of the time with people who look like Venus extravaganza, who know deep down what type of person Venus is. But when they find out the truth, they go into a rage and do awful things, and Venus has to escape out a window if at all possible. And then like nobody ever really investigates those types of crimes, or they slap a label on it like, oh, trans panic, and then that person somehow gets off or something like that.
Yeah. Even when you hear from Venus's mother from this community, I forget who that was. Was it Angie Extravaganza?
Yeah, Angie.
Yeah, you hear from Angie that she was the one that went to the moratorium or the crematorium because they were gonna burn her because nobody, like, she had been strangled to death horribly, and nobody came to assume the body, or came to check in, and there were, yeah, no one willing to come except this found family member. Dark world that
That
we live
actually hit
in.
me really hard when I was watching this because it's at the end, like there you shortly before you hear from Venus, who's talking about how she
Hmm.
wants to have the best life possible for herself.
Yeah.
And then they flash forward where others seem to be doing well. Willie gets sort of their own sort of music celebrity status,
Yeah.
and like we find out like Venus has died, and then Angie's talking about it, and she's like, yeah, that kind of just happens sometimes. Like it's sort of matter of fact, not to disparage Angie Extravaganza, but she's probably seen so much death that Venus's death is just another facet of this world that she lives in, that
Yeah.
in the way that the world treats people like them. And
Yeah.
it really just feels like there was a bright light kind of snuffed out. And that's something that made me cry when I watched it. I was like, wow. Like
Yeah.
there's also something else, there was a there, when we went to New Orleans like 10 or so years ago for the
Hmm.
encore, like there was a point where we were talking about whether it was ever appropriate to say the N word, and like at the end of that sort of discussion, I had to leave the room because I was crying because there was this big realization that like, wow, I've never had to think about whether a word that applied to my sort of racial identity was okay or not to say. And it was just a great realization of the privilege that I had there. And I think I had a
Sure.
similar moment here where it was just like, wow, I've never had to deal with anything remotely close to what Angie or Willie or Pepper were dealing with.
Yeah.
Like, this is like it's a realization of privilege, but a realization of a culture that is far and away something I'll never experience. So it was pretty heavy there, and I think that's what made me like this even more. Is like it really got to me. Like it hit me to
Sure.
my core.
I would disagree that you will never experience it because you did when watching this. You'll never be like a thriving member, maybe if you're not LGBT, but you can make friends, check in on these kinds of things, or form a community full of, maybe not full of, but that also includes the LGBT people. So I would disagree with that aspect of what you said, but yeah, it hit me pretty hard too. I had taken a short break after the part about Willy Ninja and voguing, and then I was resting on my bed for a little bit, and I just wanted to look up the movie for a second because I was just curious, like this was set in the 80s. They're all LGBT people. Kind of wonder what happened to them. And I had a certain expectation. The first person I clicked on was Venus, and I
Mm,
saw what happened. And I was just like dreading reading that all of them had died of HIV
mm,
or AIDS or complications from that, and quite a few of them did. It's really hard to say. Thankfully, they got to live a little bit longer than past the 80s. Some of them made it to the late 90s or even the 2000s. But yeah, first one I read was Venus, and then I just immediately put my phone down
yeah.
because it was. I don't mean to laugh, but it was just like that's enough for right now. I need to rest, not. So I kind of spoiled it for myself. So it didn't hit me as hard as it would have this nonchalant way that, not nonchalant, but this sort of matter of fact way that Angie reveals it in the movie. It still hits pretty hard, but it is just, yeah, this real reminder that like if you don't fit in, this is a real dangerous world for people. Or if you're not part of the, you know, mono culture, whatever. But something going back to what you said about like a bright star being snuffed out or a bright light being snuffed out, that's actually something that related to what Dorian says, like right at the end of the movie, which I have the quote here. He said, I always had hopes of being a big star, but as you get older, you aim a little lower. Everybody wants to make an impression, some mark upon the world. Then you think, you've made a mark on the world if you just get through it, and a few people remember your name. Then you've left a mark. You don't have to bend the whole world. I think it's better to just enjoy it. Pay your dues and just enjoy it. If you shoot an arrow and it goes real high, hooray for you.
I love that you said the entire quote because I just wrote, "You've left a mark if you just get through it," and that was
Yeah.
like, hell yes, that's a good quote. That's something to live by.
I love the whole thing. I think it's like I don't know how old Dorian Corey was at that time. Probably 40 or so, because he had been part of that community for 20 years or so. So he must have been 40s. He says so many good things in this movie. I just love Dorian.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
He's the Greek
if
chorus. He's like sort
yeah.
of expounding on what we're seeing in there.
Yeah, exactly. But he also has this amazing quote about like, if they don't like me because I'm still beautiful, then whatever, something like that. He does. That's not exactly what he says, but I just love him. But yeah, this idea of if you've made a mark on the world, if you just get through it, like what a powerful statement for anybody. Like I don't know, that is really encouraging to me. But especially coming from like an LGBT person, like when this whole movie is all about people who have big dreams that they'll never realize or never have the opportunity to realize. Willie Ninja, kind of lucky, sort of an exception to the rule out of the people in the movie, but yeah, I don't know. It was very inspiring to me and I saw you like
Yeah,
shaking,
yeah. I
moving
was
around to it.
pumping my fist because it was a hell of a quote. I love it. It's
Yeah.
amazing. I should point out, we were talking about the awfulness of everything that happened for the people here, but in the 2020s, because of the popularity of Venus, like recently, her case was reopened, so the police are investigating it, but
Oh,
reopening something like 30 or so years later isn't really as productive as the police could have done at the time.
yeah. Kind of hard to collect any kind of evidence when the person's long dead. Everything has changed dramatically. A lot of those people that knew her are gone. But it's a nice gesture, nice, somewhat empty gesture, but some kind of progress, I suppose. Let's talk about something nice
Yeah, let's
about the
talk about
movie.
how like the rigid standards and like
I
they
love
do
this.
fine point insults and whatnot, like cutting at like you can't exactly say something that might apply to you, but you can say something that like will cut to who they are as a person. There's that, but then there's also like the men's coat issue that happened in this.
Yes, this is my favorite scene.
Yeah, where they're talking about like how the standards are very competitive, and they'll enforce those standards if they need to. So one of them is like you have to wear a men's coat.
Right.
That's the part of the competition, and like one of the ball people end up saying like, or they go to the judges and they're like, that's not a men's coat, that's a woman's
The
coat.
buttons are on the right side. The buttons are on the right side.
Something
It's a
that
men's coat.
I would not have even considered, but it's like it's a huge issue. It's a way to throw shade, as they say.
Mm.
Something that would become a bigger term
Yeah,
now than back
that's
then.
that's something that shows like this culture is thriving. There are rules to this here game, and I just love that. That's my favorite scene. It's very funny. Like I actually did know about that. That like women's are on the left and men's buttons are on the right, but so it was especially funny to me, maybe because I already knew that. But what was I going to say? This one shows such a thriving culture. There are rules. There's ways of organizing,
Yeah,
and there's variety and this aspect of realness that you mentioned. What's interesting is that it's all about like passing as that
yeah.
thing, whether it's like a butch woman or one, or a military man, or a girl going to school, or whatever. It's like, can you pass as the straight person who would dress like this? Which is this whole, I don't even know what to think of that. That is yeah, an experience I have not even thought of. Like I can understand the idea of like passing in society, but in this culture, in the competition, it's like, I don't know, it's very unique to me, and it's hard for me to wrap my mind around like what is going on here.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good point. Like I think it's an element of like again aspiring to be that
Mm,
because what you are is not socially acceptable.
mm.
There's also a layer of making fun of that sort of thing.
Yeah, I
Like,
think so.
look at how easy it is for me, a huge gay man, to look like I'm in the military. Like, look how like you try so hard to appear manly like that, but I can do it, on a just by practice.
Effortlessly and fabulously.
Yeah. So, but there's also again that you were excluded from that sort of
Mm,
thing by who you really were. There's a lot that you could really argue and say you could apply like sociology, cultural anthropology,
for
psychology, all
sure.
these things to that to sort of explain why this exists
Yeah,
and what it says about society that there are people who do that sort of thing.
sure. In some way, I don't know if, I mean, certainly I'm ignorant on this aspect of ball culture. But it's like I want it. I don't actually want it to be explained. I want it to be a mystery to me. Like that makes it kind of, yeah, more interesting if I don't quite understand it exactly. Not that I'm here to just watch the animals in the cage, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's kind of a cruel metaphor, but you get what I mean. Like I'm not just trying to observe some strange phenomena and like, wow, look at how the monkeys throw their poop or whatever.
Yeah, there's a mystique that we don't want ruined for us.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes explaining things to perfectly understand it, yeah, it takes away the joy. But I love it for them in this time period. This of course also reminds me of another thing that Venus said, talking about people like her clients for her escorting. Some of them say that we're sick, we're crazy, and some of them think that we are the most gorgeous, special thing on earth. And I think they're all awesome.
They are pretty spectacular. People who have such
Yeah.
vibrant personalities, and who clearly put in the work to do what they do. It
Ex-
requires so much makeup, so much
mm,
understanding of how to, like maybe a lot of them make their own clothes. Like many of them, like they know how to wear something, which
they
is
know
more
how
than
to
I can say for
walk.
myself.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
know how to dance. They know how to walk. They know how to, yeah, pose. They know how to do everything. They are preparing. This is their Super Bowl, I guess, to put it in heteronormative terms,
Yeah.
or their NBA Finals. That's more relevant to the this time period coming up.
Like voguing, for example, like it's something that looks like nonsense when you view it from the outside, but in order to vogue, like what Willie Ninja does, where he's just like doing all these fine like maneuvers that where I think he's like sword slashes or something, like he's doing
Yeah,
ninja
yeah,
moves.
yeah. I
Like
love him so
it
much.
seems like nonsense, but it's something that I could never do. Like it's because you have to get low
Yeah.
to the ground, you have to move very specifically in a
Yeah,
way
and you
that
can't touch the other person as well when you're voguing, if you're doing it with another person.
yeah, it requires so much skill, like, and I'm sure from the outside it's like complete
Yeah,
nonsense, but
skill, creativity. I told you that I had thought I saw it somewhere and somewhere before, And they showed him later where he was already on this path toward the career in music videos. So I thought maybe that's where I saw it. Somehow I saw that on like VH1 or MTV or somewhere on YouTube at one point. But then I saw there's apparently Madonna made this voguing popular, and I was just thinking like this is like yet another example of black culture being appropriated or used.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm not gonna like dog Madonna on that, but like in the sense that oh God, who's that rock? Who's that? Anyway, if Madonna did appropriate it, maybe she was respectful and gave people their due, Willie Ninja or whatever. I don't exactly know, but I saw people commenting that, and I was just thinking like black culture raised to the forefront by white people, just like rock music or blues or any any other kind of thing that you can think of.
No, that's a very good point. Because I do think that Madonna kind of appropriated gay culture. She did sort of support the LGBT community in her work,
Yeah.
but a large part of why she became famous is because she stole so much from that. But you also see this in the later in the movie where there it's like a news report and ball culture has become quite big. You can forecast that or even like push that to the modern day where voguing, like at least during the late 2010s, was a pretty big thing, and I think it still is pretty big. And you still have like these drag shows and things like that, but I do think it's been commercialized. Like capitalism decided, oh, this is something that we can profit off of. So let's bring these people up little by little. Although the people who helped make it popular initially are dead. I do think it's kind of been taken from the LGBT culture in some way. Like you can't completely divorce
Yeah,
it
yeah,
because
yeah.
if you do that, then it's not ball culture anymore. It's not a
Right.
drag show without drag queens. But you can
It's not a
see,
drag show without trans people.
mhm.
RuPaul, who doesn't allow trans people. No comment.
Yeah, that's another. I thought about that while watching that too. It just so like even though like I think that's why there's a war against drag queens and whatnot is because it's been brought into the mainstream and these conservative parents want to hide that sort of thing from their children. I think personally it's a little too late. They already gave RuPaul like fame.
Yeah.
Drag races is pretty famous. You can't shove that back under the carpet.
Right.
Unless you do a lot of violence towards those people, which unfortunately might be happening. But
Right. Yeah, there's one more thing that you mentioned, like where they insult each other, which they call
mhm,
shading. I actually was wondering, is that where we get the term for throwing shade at people
mhm, yeah,
from
yeah.
this?
So much of
From
LGBT ball culture has been appropriated in the modern
Oh
day.
my gosh.
Yeah,
Wow. But one of my again, Dorian Corey is just like the coolest person that's ever lived.
yeah.
I love when he's talking about shade and he's like, shade is, I don't tell you you're ugly, but I don't have to tell you because you know you're ugly. And that's shade.
Yeah.
And he's got the coolest voice too. Like it'll be kind of soft and lilting, and then, when he's making a real point, it gets to those deeper notes. Just and I don't smoke, and I don't think it's cool, but when he smokes, it's cool.
Yeah, yeah. That's funny, but yeah. So much of that culture, so many words like tea, spilling the tea, shade, voguing,
Hmm.
things like that were like present in those cultures, and then like they made our way into like the modern slang lexicon, appropriated by young white white women,
Yeah.
and it like that's cool. Like that like as long as we know where that's coming from.
I learned. I mean, I knew. I definitely didn't know the term shade came from this. I knew tea, which I don't think shows up in this movie. I don't remember hearing it, but voguing, I had an idea, and yeah, it was confirmed from this. But yeah. Anyway, continue with what you were saying.
Yeah, no, it just the dominant white hegemony has a tendency to
Mm,
steal things. It stole, rock music and country music from the black community.
mm,
It's not it's not afraid to just steal from those cultures, whether knowingly or unknowingly, and then produce the same thing, watered down, of course,
mm.
and like giving as little possible back to those communities. But again,
Yeah,
like this is one of those things where you can't quite do that because if you have a drag queen or if you have a drag show without drag queens, it's just a
it's not a
fashion show.
drag show. It's
Yeah,
just a show.
yeah, it's just a show. It's a cis het show.
Oh God, no, please. We have to go back.
Yeah,
What else was I gonna say? One of my favorite parts, they're like, I don't know where they are, but they're interviewing some guy whose name I don't remember. But they're by the water in New York, by the bay or something. But they're on concrete. I'm not sure what part of New York that is, but they're asking him about mopping because, like, you've just heard about a lot of these people and their dreams to be rich and have money, maybe be famous or something like that, be a model, etc. And then you hear about mopping, which this person is like to describe to I wrote it down as well to describe explain mopping you go into a store and just look for whatever you want to see, look for whatever, and then he turns to the camera, mopping stealing.
yeah, yeah,
Because yeah, a lot of these people are really struggling. Also, I think Dorian Corey was talking about how like some of the people actually make their own outfits, I think, and some people just buy them. And Dorian Corey made this point about like just because you bought the thing doesn't really mean anything. You don't have money. You just have the thing. Anybody can get a tag from a store, and then you find out what mopping is. And I thought it was like you just steal the tag from the clothing item. No, you just steal. But this was also, I guess, part of gay culture to try to fit in and do the best you could for the balls as well. If you had to steal, you had to show up. It seems like.
yeah. Stealing. Yeah, I wrote that down. Like they steal. Like I think they steal food. Like they dine
Ah, that was
down.
so funny. That's such a good story. Yeah, they went. The director is talking about how she went to some store or some I forget the name of the place, but I know the guy she was interviewing was like, if that place ever closes, I'll be so upset. Because where else can you go and get food without paying? And she said like she bought a sandwich for $5, and he was like, $5? What? You paid $5? Well, I can tell you, when we went there, we got your $5 back. I love that guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And but like if you're struggling to survive, you do anything that it takes to survive in a cruel world.
Mm,
So, like, I'm not, if you see someone stealing food, no, you didn't.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right, exactly. That's really all I have from this. Like, I think we've pulled it apart as much as we can. Uh,
Yeah,
just
I
yeah,
feel
the
like
fear of
there's
AIDS and all that comes with that as well.
yeah, the tragedy, the dreams, the hopes, the vogue, the culture vulture aspect, the stealing, the doing anything. I feel like there's something we're missing, but I don't know. It's just the well, we kind of touched on it. We said it sparingly here and there, just like the level of freedom these people have when they are with the people they trust.
Yeah.
And oh, one thing we didn't really talk about, I will let you explain it. We did mention it, but because they have this feeling of trust because of this mother-children system, which we did not describe too much, but there is a scene on the beach where you can really see how this real loving family thing comes together, because there's some of these people, they also they're so close that they can even tease each other about certain things, and I think you'll know what I mean. There's a scene on a beach. They've started to talk about like some of the dreams that they have. Some of them get implants, breast implants. For example, some of them get vaginoplasty, to remove their penis and have a vagina. And one of the people, I don't remember their name, does get that and talks about just how open and free they feel and happy. There's no questions, there's no closet for them anymore. They are their true self. And yeah, I don't know. I then immediately after, she is undercut by her friend, who I assume is also trans, to say, but she's still got her voice.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. It's meant with
Yeah,
love. I
and
know it's meant with love.
yeah, it was meant with love. But this just shows like this family bonding, like they can tease each other over these things, because they have this bond and similar experience. But Dorian Corey says one thing about getting these types of procedures, because Dorian Corey is a drag queen, but never went so far as to be trans
Hmm.
or do you remember what Dorian had said about this?
No, I actually don't.
Okay. Well, as I said, Dorian is like a lending lens and ear because he's a mother for these children, or a father, he says. Some of them have these dreams of getting surgeries, breast implants, or to remove their penis or something. But he says, life is going to be hard if you're a gay person.
Hmm.
But just because you get a vagina doesn't mean that your life is going to be fabulous. In fact, it will probably be harder because women have it hard too, because, it's a misogynist world. And, there's darkness all around in this kind of stuff. Thoughts, comments?
Yeah, no, I remember that now. That was actually really poignant. Like, you think things are going to be better on the other side, but women already have it so difficult. And so,
Yeah.
like, yeah, you'll feel better about who you are, which is important, but you'll still be discriminated against because, there's that opposite side of misogyny there.
Yeah, it is sort of like and I say this respectfully, it's sort of like a bleak wake up call in a sense to like trans people who are considering that, like, okay, your own dignity is important, yes, but to some degree, if you never get that procedure, at least they'll still consider you a man, and in that sense have more respect for you than if you were a woman, even though they don't have respect for you because you're trans. I don't know. There was a lot in that, and it was just a very bleak part of the the movie. This sad realization that even becoming your true self means possibly your life gets even worse than it
Yeah,
already
yeah.
is. I think that's all I have to say. Probably there's some other small things, funny moments or whatever.
Oh, I guess I just have one other thing to point out.
Oh,
That's one of the things I think is really good about this is sort of the historical preservation. Like,
mm,
of showing that this culture existed and being able to again draw a through line to the modern day and see how we're still this is still being celebrated and it's
Mm,
become even more ingrained in our culture,
mm,
even the mainstream culture, which is both good and bad, and there's a huge political debate going on about these sort of things. It's even if it were to just like go away, which it never ever will, because
mm.
it might just go back to like these New York, dance halls.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting to see this sort of historical perspective there.
for sure. It, when I watched it, it was in black and white, but some of the comments said it was in color
It
originally.
was,
Did
yeah,
you watch it in color?
yeah. It was on HBO Max.
Oh, I just saw it on YouTube. And there were a couple parts that were silent for me because the music had to be so it could be uploaded. So I kind of missed the whole experience. I might try to find it again and
You do
watch
need
it
to
in
find
color.
it because it looks very beautiful in color.
I will do that. But it was pretty cool in black and white. I was like, oh, this is a very cool stylistic choice. And then I only found out that it was just desaturated.
Mm,
But
probably to skirt copyright violation.
yeah, probably. But I guess the final question of the day is which of the, not characters, but people do you relate to the most?
Um, Venus Extravaganza. Um, and that I aspire for the great life. I'm fighting
Mm,
every day for it in ways that are similar and different from Venus, and maybe that's why her death hit me so hard is because it was like aspiring to greater things. A person who had such high hopes cut down in her prime. So yeah, that's me there. What about you?
Uh, the guy who threw his coat off and got pissed that they said he broke the rules. That the buttons are on the right. I would absolutely lose my shit in the same exact way.
Yeah, yeah, okay, okay. Um, that was very funny. I love that. But yeah, so now that we're at the end of this, what movie are you going to have us watch for next month?
Excellent question. I'm going to tell you in my hand is a small USB stick that no longer works. Don't ask why I still have it. It's because I didn't throw it away. You didn't have to ask. That's why you didn't. I told you not to.
Okay,
If you choose the hand that has the USB stick, we choose the longer movie. If you choose the hand without the USB stick, we choose the shorter movie.
that's really weird. But
Left or right? Watch hand or hair tie hand?
let's go with the watch hand.
Uh-oh. This means we are going to watch Lawrence of Arabia.
Ooh, I've been meaning to sort of make us watch that as well, but I
Mm,
figured it seems much more like an independent movie that I would go see because
yeah.
I don't know how like progressive it is. Not progressive, like is it slightly racist in its meaning?
Well, T.E. Lawrence was to some degree because he was like a British imperialist at the end of the day. But if you don't want to do that, we can always go with the other option.
No, it'll be Lawrence of Arabia
Then
because
I'll save
I really enjoyed watching that one movie last year with
Ben Hur.
Ben Hur, and I was like,
Yeah.
well, Lawrence of Arabia seems like another epic in that way.
Mm.
So
That's why I chose it. My other movie, I was considering if you had chosen my other hand, I was gonna try, and all of my movies were gonna be animations for this year. But I wanted to start with Lawrence of Arabia actually, but then I chose Porco Rosso. But yeah, we're gonna do this, and then we will do the other option, which I will not say until in July, I guess, when we watch the movie for August.
An excellent choice for LGBT month because, as we all know, Lawrence of Arabia celebrates queer culture. But
Okay, no. The animated movie has a queer character, so we need
no,
to,
no, it's too late. It's too late. Lawrence of Arabia.
we need to have a queer reading of Lawrence of Arabia.
There we go. Yeah. But also, Pride Month is in June, and I just want to, say here, go watch Paris is Burning if you want like a Pride Month themed movie. But watch it outside of June as well because it's really solid. And don't let anyone say that you're not allowed to celebrate Pride Month, especially in these increasingly more conservative, more fascist times, because those people are dumb and stupid, and you shouldn't restrict yourself just because of those dumb and stupid people, even if they are threatening violence. Live your life and don't let the evil people of the world try to crush you.
Yeah, don't
I
let the
guess that's the
bastards grind you down,
yeah
as they say.
yeah. Anyways, those were our thoughts on Paris is Burning. Pretty
Yeah.
wonderful movie. Fantastic. I don't know how I've gone this long without seeing it. But yeah, definitely recommend it. You can probably find it online somewhere if you want to watch it. Or it's on HBO Max, but don't give money to Warner Brothers at this point. But yeah, let us know what you think in the comments below. We would love to hear from you. Subscribe to Lucas's channel, which is linked to in the description somewhere. Would love to hear from you. Other than that, also join the Discord if you want to have further conversations about books, movies, TV, or that kind of thing. There's a link to that in the description as well. But until then, we wish you the best of luck in your weird and voguing related travels. Farewell.
Farewell.